believe that every human being has resources and abilities that our community needs. And our aim is to ensure that all citizens have a sense of belonging to the Norwegian society and to the city of Drammen. I would thank the Universal Tolerance Organization and Drammen Sacred Festival for giving us an opportunity to have a meaningful and necessary dialogue on important topics. Thank you very much for your attention and welcome to Drammen. Thank you.
It's very important that we send a clear message out that Norway is never going to be a safe haven for terrorists. So the people who has gone and fight along the side of ISIS or Daesh or other groups that we think, or which we have clear evidence for, have done a serious violation to the innocent people of Iraq and Syria. We will never tolerate that. Because a life in Syria, a life in Iraq, has the same value as a life in Norway.
How can we prevent youth from being radicalized and joining such violent extremist movements, and even being willing to commit such atrocities as we see from IS these days? Unfortunately, we have, during the last decades in Europe and other countries, seen an enemy image build up between Islam and Muslims. Islamophobia is on the rise in many countries. Islamophobia and other types of xenophobia are obstacles to develop understanding between people of different ethnic and religious backgrounds. And it can breed the ground for radicalization.
Now, what we see is that the Islamic State has actually done something unique because he has managed to gain independence from the sponsor by conquering strategic territories rich in natural resources and exploiting these resources. So to a certain extent, he has applied a model similar to the one that we've seen applied by the FARC in Colombia, creating enclaves where the population is trapped inside, and then the population is forced to become part of the economy of the armed organization.
President Obama made a speech a few months ago where he said there's an evil ideology at play. But what he forgot to do was to name that evil ideology. And what that allows is polarization. It allows other people to define what that ideology is. It allows the far right to define that Muslims are all extremists. And it allows the far left to decide that they want to try and work with people who they consider to be the people that are being oppressed. For me, and for the majority of the experts that have been working in this field for a long time, we must name the word. We must say what it is that we are opposed to. And just as there is a difference between social and socialism, social is the way that we all interact. Socialism is a distinct political ideology that is left of centre. Islam is a faith that nearly 2 billion people around the world practice in many different ways. Islamism is a distinct political ideology that wants two things. One is to set up a utopian Islamist caliphate and impose their version of Sharia. That's very important. And the second thing they want to do is to spread that flag and that version, impose that version of Sharia all the way around the world.
People that actually do venture into extremist websites, and I have met some of them, has been evidenced through a report by the Home Office Select Committee in the United Kingdom, where it says roots of radicalization, the single biggest threat they find is the internet. Now, I'm not saying for a second that the internet is the only, but to be denial to say that it is not playing its part. It's playing a very important role in this. So we need to understand. The second thing we need to also look at is the issue about language and how we demonize a whole community. By demonizing people continuously and with a press that is of a negative nature will create a siege mentality, a mentality where people will become inward looking, look for support from within themselves. What we need to do is to empower and to create the situation whereby people can be fully fledged members of the society they live in, be it within the civic society of the country they live in, or whether in the political sphere of the life that we lead. That is so crucial within the work that we do in relation to this. If we do not speak to those young people, and we do not have our own interpretations of why we think they are doing things wrong, then we have a serious problem.
It's very difficult to attack an oppression narrative from outside. It's very difficult for me. I come from a Palestinian background, and it's very difficult for someone who's let's say Israeli to convince me that I'm not, that a historical injustice hasn't been done to my people. However, it falls on me to question our own Palestinian terrorism. It falls on me, someone from within the group, to talk about it. And this is the case. This is why I enjoyed some of the presentations before. It falls upon us as Muslims to question our own oppression narratives. I cannot do it for you, and you cannot do it for me. The voice has to come from within.
I think there is a deficit in relation to addressing the positive aspects of living in the West, the liberal democracy, the rule of law, the country that gives you sanctuary where you live in. And there is a massive movement in relation to, say, disasters, etc., that take place in other parts of the world. The European and certainly the British government and the public are in the forefront of helping. And I think part of that has been lost in transition, because what we simply talk about is the negative aspect of living in the West, but we very rarely talk about all the positive contributions that take place.
For me, there is no contradiction between having your own religious faith and respecting that Norway has a humanistic Christian cultural heritage on the one hand, and to integrate people with other religions on the other. And my experience from dialogues with the Muslim leaders is that this is not the problem. They respected me very much, knowing that I am a Christian, even an ordained pastor. And meeting Muslims in Norway, they are respecting that Norway has a Christian cultural heritage. That's not the problem. It's more the agnostics and atheists who are reluctant on that. It is possible, in my view, to combine respect for our Christian cultural heritage and integrating and respecting minorities.
What you see here is Arctic Christensen's, in my view, poetic response to a very tragic and barbaric event in Copenhagen, February 14. Mr. Christensen was present when the shooting took place, and this is a response he made afterwards. The attacker was a 22-year-old man, Omar al-Hussein, who fired 28 shots through the glass front window of a local cultural center in Copenhagen, which is called the Powder Box.
All those culture of impunity which allows to minority group to govern and exploit the majority of the people can be partly questioned by civil society and protest movement who want to resolve this cognitive and social pyramid, or at least flatten it. For those reasons, power holders use many means to divide lower caste majority and divert them from a key issue that face India, through the sectarian hatred and ensure their freedom to act as a leader by enact draconian law to so-called protect people from this sectarian terrorism that they contribute to create themselves.
What is de facto I don't like. I don't like you, but I tolerate you. Basically, I bite my lip, and that's tolerating other whom I don't like. So it's a temporary liking. Tolerance is a temporary liking over an embedded resentment. There is an embedded resentment, but I tolerate and I wait. An idea, a concept, a soft word for an angry approach.
In Sweden, and I think this is similar in many other Northern European, Western European countries, you have a high rate of lip service to multiculturalism, but the private behavior differs. So in Sweden, you will get, if you do a poll, something like 80% will say they support multiculturalism, and 80% will say that they themselves rarely or never socialize with non-Western immigrants. And this goes both ways, you know, as this in turn, immigrants sometimes is visible immigrants, that's a great word the British use. Visible immigrants will feel not welcome. Because first of all, there is some degree of misunderstanding, which is that your neighbor doesn't say hi to you. Sweden and Norway are the two countries in the world with the highest rate where people do not know the name of their neighbors when they live in multiple housing, and of course in the Middle East that's abnormal, but people take it wrongly as a negative reaction to themselves, rather than they don't understand that it is the culture, the same way that the Scandinavians will misunderstand culture and behavior.